And welcome on board. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for always keeping it TV47. My name is Linda Alela, and it is time for Morning Cafe, where we kickstart your day on a good note, informing you on what is happening around you across the world, educating you, and most importantly, weighing in, comprehensive way on matters that are making headlines. So it's always a pleasure doing this with you, and of course looking forward to more and more sessions. Karibu sana this beautiful morning, and we'll start off with the usual, of course, the newspaper review. We also take a look at the stories of the day, and we have candid discussions on the very same stories. And later on this morning we'll be discussing how best you can kickstart your business and stay afloat. Most of the people complaining right now that things are not easy courtesy of COVID-19, but even after that, of course, the world has to go back to normalcy. At that point, when we're going back to normalcy, what will you do to ensure that you are back to your feet or on your feet is something that we'll be discussing this morning. That is on the last laps of Morning Cafe. But also we take a look at the issues of matters economy right in the country. Remember, it's Tuesday. Most of the Tuesdays we touch on the economic stories that are making headlines. So we'll be here, and of course I'll be having Philip Mongali and Cyrus Litswa, and later on Ruby, who will be the guests of the day. So karibu sana once again. Like I said, my name is Linda Alela, and it's always a pleasure doing this with you. Remember, we would also have love to hear from you. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela is my Twitter handle, and at TV47. You can drop in your comments and we'll get to sample them as we proceed with the show. So let's kickstart, as the government now says it will not be releasing the number of parliamentarians who have contracted the virus due to fear of stigmatization, a matter that raises concern over whether fear of stigmatization only rises when the statistics involve the high and mighty in the society vis-a-vis the common citizen. Of course, this after it was informed, or it was said that some members of parliament have COVID-19. So let's take a look at that story that has been prepared by Zainab Mohammed.
Every day at 3 p.m. in the evening,
11 more persons have tested positive for the disease today.
The daily COVID-19 briefs are addressed by officials from the Ministry of Health. Statistics that contain details of the common mwananchi, where they live, who they might have interacted with, where they have been quarantined, and the total number of people who have contracted the virus in the last 24 hours.
Today we have 120 people who have tested positive for COVID-19.
This daily briefs being termed as providing key information to Kenyans on the state of the virus in the country as a way of containing the spread of the virus.
We would like to appeal to all Kenyans to embrace the containment measures, because these are crucial in terms of curtailing community spread and suppressing the pandemic.
However, the case is different when the virus touches the high and mighty in the society. When the virus first landed in State House, a statement was issued about it. To date, even the Ministry of Health officials say they do not know the exact number of people from State House who have contracted the virus, a matter that raised concerns from all over, as many question the effects of the virus in the highest office in Kenya and the safety of the head of state and his family.
I actually do not have that information.
Another report emerged, this time COVID-19 in Parliament, with several members of Parliament being reported to have contracted the virus. When the Minister of Health was asked about the numbers, the stand was rather shocking. The ministry saying it cannot release the number of parliamentarians who have tested positive due to fear of stigmatization. The Director General of Public Health even saying that informing Kenyans of the number of parliamentarians who have contracted the virus won't help them in protecting themselves against the virus.
I do not know why it is important to know how many parliamentarians have tested positive. Because in the way of fighting stigma, it is not important that we know how many bishops have turned positive, how many judges have turned positive. We have urged again and again individual responsibility. The numbers of parliamentarians who have done positive is not going to help you not stand positive.
Not forgetting that the same leaders are treated with kids' gloves when they blatantly flout COVID-19 containment measures at will. Political rallies have become the norm rather than the exception, despite the Ministry of Health outlawing political gathering.
It will be difficult to know. Even some of you might have COVID here. You don't know where you have got it. You don't know where you have got it, actually. You can't say that a meeting in Kakamega, you got it there because you are in the meeting. You can get it anywhere.
The double standards by the government continues to raise questions, with COVID-19 being seen as a disease of the poor and only the poor should catch it and their details released to the public. When the politicians do, it serves no purpose to know them and how many they are. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
All right, and officially, Philip Mungali joins me as a lawyer to take us through what, of course, the stories are like. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Linda. How are you?
And you've heard, I'm good. Good morning. And of course, you've heard what the Minister for Matters Health has said, that, knowing these people does not help you from contracting the virus. Why is it that we're stigmatizing COVID-19 to that level?
It's unfortunate. I don't know why the government is treating this with a lot of arrogance. If I may borrow Mutahi Kagwe's words when he warned us that if we treated this disease normally, then it will treat us abnormally. And interestingly, the government has been treating things normally, including their response on some of these issues. Now, I would fault the government for contributing to the stigma around COVID-19 because the government initially wanted to treat, and they are still doing so, they wanted to treat this issue and those who are contracting the virus as a matter of secrecy. Now, when you bring secrecy into a pandemic such as this, then you are automatically creating stigma. People will be worried about their neighbors finding out that they have contracted corona, or coming into contact with such people. So it will have been important for the government to normalize communication over this, to normalize the fact that you can get tested and you can turn positive, and then bring the community into engaging towards fighting the virus. But when you hear the stance by the ministry, saying how will it help you? Yet other countries are coming forward and saying this is what is happening. It is normal. You can actually get it, and even after you have contracted COVID-19, you can actually recover. It's possible to recover. And it is also unfortunate that it is these same politicians who are moving around the country, holding political meetings, conducting gatherings of all kinds and inviting wananchi to those gatherings. So it will be important for the Kenyan to know, are these leaders actually turning positive? And if they are, then we will place upon them a greater burden of responsibility to ensure that, that we are adhering to the guidelines by the Ministry of Health. But if we don't do that, then, what is the point of the citizen taking it seriously if they are not seeing the seriousness coming from government itself?
From the government itself.
Yes.
All right, interesting at times right there. And I think it's important that we also take a look at, what is captured right here on the newspaper is more or less the same thing on Matters COVID-19 and the reports that we received. This time around, I guess we've probably talked about this for the longest of time, always, highlighting the numbers that have been captured to a point whereby maybe there's nothing much so to speak about. And of course, just to remind us of the numbers as of yesterday, 6,190 right here. And we had 120 people tested positive. 2,013 have recovered so far, and 144 deaths have been witnessed. And of course, amid all this testing that has been ongoing, this has been captured on the front page of the People's Daily. And there's this story also, which is actually the biggest biggest story of the People's Daily. Doctors divided over healed corona patients. And this expounded more on page 8, as some say COVID-19 cases in quarantine should be retested before being discharged. But with the ministry, of course, facing shortage of kits, a section of medics believe those leaving hospital are fine and cannot transmit the virus after 14 days of isolation. Pretty much strange, don't you think so?
Yeah, it's very strange. And one thing that I find also interesting is we have now gotten obsessed with statistics, with numbers.
Yeah.
It's not just the numbers that we are saying we are testing. The other day I had CAS Mwangangi say that in this month alone they have tested, I think it was about 150,000 samples or so. So I think there is a narrative that is being created. Yes, the virus has spread widely across the country, but again, I feel like what is coming from the Ministry of Health is a desire to fit into an opening up narrative, so that you have numbers that explain a certain scenario. You have numbers of infected people, and you have numbers of recoveries. So I think it could be true, and I might agree with those doctors who are saying it is important to retest those who are still in quarantine before releasing them, because we have lessons from across the globe where people who had been released from quarantine ended up testing positive later after they had been released. So it is important that we do not play a game of statistics and a game of numbers. The modeling that the acting Director of Health, Amoth, had given to us, it was not a prophecy, it was a modeling. So there's really no pressure to fit into that modeling. There's really no pressure to make sure that our statistics match a criteria for opening up the country and easing down lockdowns. Yes, Lynn.
All right, and of course that's more like it. Like they say, it is an issue that still remains dicey as people keep talking of it, and of course also captured on this page. That is page 9 of the People's Daily. They say stop linking high-profile names to corona. That is according to the Ministry of Health, as the state castigates persons profiling identities of senior public figures. I think we're going to leave it at that as we cross over to the next story that has been prepared by my team. And Nandi County is likely to be the biggest winner of this year's county revenue allocation, receiving an additional 1.3 billion to its last year's allocation. Senators are, however, divided on the allocation formula, with a contention on whether to use county population or the size of the county. A proposal on the revenue allocation is expected to elicit a heated debate in the Senate today, with arid and semi-arid areas counties being the biggest losers. Elizabeth Mutuko now reports.
The biggest winners of this year's allocation will include Nandi County, which has been proposed an additional 1.3 billion shillings, the county to receive 6.7 billion Kenya shillings. Uasin Gishu and Nakuru counties are likely to get additional of 1.1 billion shillings each, while Kiambu and Kakamega counties might get 1 billion shillings to boost each. However, arid and semi-arid counties are among 18 counties that are likely to be the biggest losers of the proposed allocation. Wajir might lose at least 2 billion shillings in its allocation, while Marsabit and Mandera counties will lose 1.9 billion shillings each if the proposals are approved. Others include Garissa and Tana River counties. And with the debate expected in the House Tuesday afternoon, senators in some of the losers have vowed to oppose the proposals.
And even if they lose, because times have changed, and we don't have a lot of money, it is not something which will come out as if some counties are more Kenyan than others. So in terms of the proposed formula, I'm yet to see the proposal which will be brought on the floor of the House. But one thing is very clear. We cannot work on a radius. We cannot take the square root of the land size so that we can say distance to service. That is something which I will completely reject.
in the contention among the senators being formula on either to use population or size of the county.
Kupewa zaidi ya bilioni 1.3 ni muhimu kwa sababu tunapoongea kule Nandi population inaelekea karibu milioni 1 na kwenda juu, na tuko na mahitaji na ni wananchi ndio wako na mahitaji, si shamba. So nimeona nasikia kuna watu wanasema to reduce kutoka 8% mpaka 5%. Mimi kesho katika bunge la Seneti tutakataa hiyo maneno. Tumekubaliana maseneta wote ambao wanatoka katika taifa letu la Kenya ambao wamekuwa na watu wengi. Kwa mfano hapa Kiambu tuko na watu zaidi ya mamilioni, hapa Nairobi, na watu wanahitaji huduma, si kuweka kule mashamba. Na heshimu wale wenzetu ambao wanasema wako na mashamba kwa sababu watu wanaishi mbali mbali, lakini lazima tuelewa kwamba huduma inaenda kwa watu na watu ndio wanahitaji huduma, si mambo ya land size.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukuru Yatani has proposed a 46 billion shillings reduction on the county's allocation following a reduced revenue allocation. Governors have vowed to oppose the reduction. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Nairobi.
And this on the People's Daily, page 5, as the arid and semi-arid counties are set to lose 17 billion. Proposed formula gives consideration to a county's health status and its ability to raise revenue. 18 marginalized and arid and semi-arid counties are likely to lose close to 17 billion in a compromise formula for sharing revenue among 47 county governments. Unlike the Commission on Revenue Allocation proposal that gives significance to a county's population, the new formula has given the proportionate consideration to a county's health status and its ability to raise revenue. How many of the counties are actually able to confidently say that they can raise so much revenue as it stands right now? I mean, that has been the biggest bone of contention in how best we can see that devolution works, Philip, because clearly if devolution has to work, then we need to experience resources being collected at the level of the county, which most of the counties have registered almost zero.
Yeah, it's true. And I think many counties are underperforming in terms of revenue collection. There are counties that are still, following up the model of the county councils, the local government that the local governments that they inherited. So I think the formula that was proposed or is proposed by the Commission for Revenue Allocation is sound in my view, because then we'll be looking at per capita development rather than development per square kilometer, which is what some people are proposing. So if that is the model, then there will be pressure on some counties that have been under collecting revenue simply because they have not put in place mechanisms or activities that will generate revenue. It will put pressure on those counties to ensure that they are doing more in terms of revenue collection. The other bit, and this is the argument that is countering the proposed revenue allocation model. That some counties are large expansive in size, and so they should receive more. I think that does not work towards the model of devolution that we have, because we not only have political decentralization but administrative decentralization. And when you talk about administrative decentralization, you are looking at the size of the population, not just the size of landmass. And it is the population that is the recipient of development, is the recipient of the proceeds of the revenue that is going to the counties. So I think the counties that have a large population size are entitled to receive more, not because of the large population size, but because of the per capita development that we are looking to achieve in devolution.
This continues to spur lots of division amongst the politicians themselves, of course, all them trying to work in favor of their respective counties. Senator Mithika Linturi, he's the one who's proposed the revenue allocation formula. He's right here. And also the CRA revenue sharing says that a new prescription ensures that at least 29 counties gain, while moderating 18 counties which are losing 1 billion each. And also the CRA has proposed the use of 6 parameters, with a population allocated and the lion's share at 45%, a basic share shareable revenue at 26%, 18% on the poverty index. And away from that, let's pick this story. There was drama at Kitui County Assembly after Governor Charity Ngilu's lawyers were barred from accessing the county assembly premises. The MCAs have started the impeachment process despite the court order stopping the motion. Ngilu, who had been summoned by the assembly, has however condemned the chaos at the assembly, claiming that the MCAs are acting out of malice.
This was the situation at the Kitui County Assembly.
I mean, no one gets in before we go in because we are invited.
Governor Charity Ngilu's lawyers were barred from accessing the county assembly premises and forcibly ejected from the county assembly. Ngilu was to appear before the county assembly to respond to the summons issued by the county assembly ahead of her impeachment. Ngilu has, however, condemned the forceful ejection of the lawyers, saying she had the right to either in person or the lawyers.
Nobody should mishandle advocates, and this is one of those cases in which we will be asking the Law Society of Kenya to take up, because advocates should never be mishandled, manhandled or assaulted in the way of duty or the course of duty.
The court had issued orders stopping our ouster, but the members of county assembly have vowed to proceed with the motion.
Motion have been moved. It has not been stopped, as it is being alleged in some of the social media forums.
The court will begin the inter-party hearing on 6th of July 2020. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
And things are not tough for Ngilu alone. The leadership of several governors hangs in the balance as the wave of impeachment sweeps across counties. Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru survived her ouster after the Senate Select Committee threw out her impeachment motion. Other governors facing a tough time ahead include Kitui's Charity Ngilu and Nakuru's Lee Kinyanjui. Let's take a look.
Speaking in Kakamega, Devolution Cabinet Secretary and Chair of Governors Wycliffe Oparanya asked MCAs to be considerate as they table impeachment motions against governors. They said this is not the right time as counties gear up their fight against coronavirus.
During this corona pandemic period, we are urging our assemblies to focus their energies, resources towards battling this enemy. After that, they can go back with business as usual.
Nilisema wakati wa impeachment hiyo pesa tunayo. Kwa nini tunachukua maloya kufanya impeachment? Impeachment inaweza kufanywa wakati wowote. Tunaweza kungojea economy ifunguliwe. Saa hiyo sasa wewe ukitaka ufanye impeachment yako ufanye. Sisi tutakataza impeachment. Lakini tunasema ile pesa chache ambayo unayo, tuache tutumie tununue PPE.
Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu is facing a tough time as county MCAs prepare to impeach her. On Monday, chaos erupted at the Kitui County Assembly as Ngilu's lawyers were denied entry into the chambers and were thrown out literally. Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui has dared Nakuru MCAs to impeach him, saying the accusations against him on delayed projects and centralization of tendering process are unfounded and far-fetched.
We know our rights. We know the rights of the people of Nakuru, and we do not by any chance want anybody to think that they can teach us how to do our work. If it's an impeachment, we are ready for it. We are ready for it, not even in 14 days, even today. So I think this idea of the assemblies across the country putting certain demands, and unless you do them, you're impeached. I think this is a time when the nation needs to have a very sober conversation as to what oversight is, because we think we are going overboard. And for those who think that stick can work, it can work elsewhere, but not here in Nakuru.
Nakuru MCAs have threatened to impeach Kinyanjui over slow implementation of development projects. Busia Governor Sospeter Ojaamong may soon face impeachment as MCAs say they are not happy with his leadership. Chapter 11 of the Constitution provides for the impeachment of a governor if claims of impeachment are met, including gross violation of the Constitution and abuse of office. Governors say the current wave of impeachment is fanned by 2022 political ambitions. Mwangi Maina, TV47. Nairobi.
For you, actually.
Yeah, if you wanted it to remain, it turns to. So it is not for you.
And Philip Mwangali, the same stories captured on page 2 and also 3 of the People's Daily. Pretty much unfortunate how we witness some of these chaos. I mean, can't it just be done, with decorum? Does it have to end with such chaos that we witness every other time? Such was also the case during that motion of Anne Waiguru, and now this extends here. And I mean, it wasn't even better in Kiambu when they were trying to impeach Governor Ferdinand Waititu, or former Governor Ferdinand Waititu.
What happened in Kituyu is very unfortunate. The fact that people who are representing the governor were roughed up in that manner. It goes to show that the MCAs could be driven by malice rather than their constitutional duty to play oversight over the executive of the county government. That was very unfortunate. And the fact that one advocate was hurt in the melee that ensued. But the other unfortunate bit is that we are increasingly seeing county assemblies that are using that oversight tool, constitutional tool, to hold a whole county hostage. Yeah. We agree that there are governors that have grossly violated the constitution, but I think we are increasingly seeing county assemblies and MCAs that are just vexatious, that are just being petty. I don't want to discount those motions that are coming, but the fact that we are seeing many of them at this time or coming, in wholesale, it goes a long way to show that county assemblies have failed in their parliamentary or legislative oversight over the county executive. Because if you wait to impeach a governor, yet you have opportunity along the way, along these processes, if it is to do with tenders, then the county assembly has opportunity to oversight and to check these tenders as and when they are being done. So when you wait to compile a list of tenders for you to come and use them as grounds for impeachment, then it means you have failed along the way. And it is a misuse of the impeachment tool. Right. Because the truth is that across the country, there are MCAs, county assemblies, that are in bed with the county executives. You have governors who have impoverished counties, but they have been sitting pretty because, they have been sharing the loot with MCAs. Yeah. So the fact that MCAs are now waking up and discovering that they can actually utilize impeachment, whether it is because of pressure from other counties or political machinations behind the scene, is very unfortunate. There are governors who have been enjoying, peace. There are some who are in the second term. Some who are in that list that we are told is coming with impeachment. Yeah. Governors who are corrupt, and people know these governors are corrupt. The members of a county assembly know that these governors are corrupt, but because they have been feeding from the trust that these governors have created, they have let these things go. Yeah. So the fact that a governor is in his or her second term, you're coming up with an impeachment motion 1 year before the term ends, says a lot about what is happening in the county assemblies. The other bit is this, that if indeed it is true that all these governors, are guilty of the things that they're being accused of, then it goes a long way to show the kind of leadership that we have. Because if you have, close to 5 governors who are facing impeachment, rightly facing impeachment motions, then it shows that we have a breakdown in leadership in this country. And we will not reap the fruits of devolution as we were supposed to.
All right. Well, of course, we'll expound more on that on the subsequent this next segment. Now, let's cross over to a different story, as otherwise known as Kihiga Abortion Bill. Nakuru Senator Susan Kihiga's reproductive health bill has sparked controversy in the country. Religious leaders and human life activists among those on the forefront in bashing Kihiga. But what is so controversial about this bill that has warranted such an uproar? Our reporter David Muthuga analyzes the bill that was presented to the National Assembly for a second reading in May.
Nakuru Senator Susan Kihika is at the center of the storm yet again, this time round due to her reproductive health care bill that seeks to amend existing abortion rules. However, this has not rested easy, with some sections of Kenyans, among them the clergy and human life activists. The 4-parts proposal already presented in Parliament further seeks to amend rules governing access to family planning, assisted reproduction and safe motherhood. Under termination of pregnancy, Kihika proposes a pregnancy may be terminated by a trained health professional, where in the opinion of the trained health professional there is need for emergency treatment, the pregnancy would endanger the life or health of the mother. There exists a substantial risk that the fetus will suffer from a severe physical or mental abnormality that is incompatible with life outside the womb. A trained health professional who objects the termination of a pregnancy, except in a case of emergency treatment, shall refer the pregnant mother to a trained health professional who is willing to provide this service. If the trained health professional fails to refer the pregnant woman, he or she commits an offense and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term of 3 years or a fine of 1 million shillings or to both. Kihika adds, a trained health professional shall not terminate a pregnancy unless he or she has obtained the written consent of the pregnant woman. In the case of a pregnant minor, the health professional ought to consult with the minor's guardian and determine that it is in the best interests of the minor to terminate the pregnancy. For persons with mental illnesses, the health professional shall not carry out the procedure to terminate the pregnancy unless the professional has sought and obtained the written consent of the person with mental illness. Where the person with mental illness is unable to give consent due to the nature of the illness, a supporter duly appointed by that person in accordance to the will and preferences of the person with mental illness shall give consent. Where the person with mental illness has not appointed a supporter, the following people shall give consent: the spouse of the person, the parents of the person in the absence of a spouse, or the next of kin of the person. A trained health professional shall provide post-abortion care and counseling for cases of incomplete abortion or complications arising out of the abortion procedure. Finally, a trained health professional who provides termination of pregnancy services and post-abortion care shall collect the data and ensure it is entered into the Health Information System established under Section 105 of the Health Act. This comes at the backdrop of a spike in teenage pregnancies in the country. David Muthoka, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, not to delve deep into that story, just take a sneak peek on what has been captured also on the People's Daily as a teen pregnancy is blamed on gender-based violence. Sexual gender-based violence in Bungoma has been reported as one of the main causes of increased teenage pregnancies, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, according to Bungoma County Member of Parliament Catherine Wamilianga, a spot check on the county's 9 constituency reveals a grim picture of increased cases of sexual gender-based violence. And, one would want to argue, of course, otherwise in regards to the bill that has been presented. I do not know what you make of that bill, briefly, because then there's so much that, is involved, and also is, in a way, puts the society and the moral authority, of course, at stake.
Linda, there is a reproductive health policy that was developed not very long ago. And so it is needful that we have legislation that supports that policy. But even so, one of the issues that is legitimately raised against this bill by Senator Susan Kihika is that it raises issues of permissibility. Because the bill is, in some areas, the bill is couched in very amorphous terms. The fact that, and especially to do with abortion, the fact that, a health professional is amorphously defined. So anyone who claims to be a health professional then can decide that a pregnancy is not viable and it needs to be terminated. The fact that one of those grounds that could lead to termination of pregnancy is, if the health professional decides that the fetus could be mentally or physically affected, at birth. That you can imagine if anyone who is, physically affected, physically disabled in a way, would have had their life ended at fetal stage just because a health professional thought that they'll be physically affected. So there are very many issues. Those are just some of them. There are very many issues that need to be addressed in that bill. If we go with what the bill is proposing, then we'll be it will be opening a floodgate of very many things. There are things that the bill is proposing that are already existent in law, and around abortion especially, things to do with or touching on the sanctity of life, when life starts, and who owns that life and who has a right over that life. I think those are important issues that need to be addressed. I do not think that it is wise to pass the bill as it is. That bill needs a lot of changes to be aligned with our constitution and to be aligned also with the reproductive health policy that is very wholesome and is family-centered.
And of course, for us to note is that the bill does not seek to curb teenage pregnancies, but also, address some of the issues that come along with teenage pregnancy. So we wait to see whether this is going to sail through, and if not, then how best they can debate to incorporate the key things that you've captured or you have mentioned. Let's proceed to a different story. The process of recruiting a new registrar of political parties and 3 deputy registrars has kicked off. That was of yesterday, with 10 candidates already undergoing interviews to fill the position of the registrar of political parties. The process is set to be concluded coming Friday, and 3 names submitted to the president for appointment. Eli Lugova reports.
The Office of Registrar of Political Parties, enacted in 2011, is said to have a legitimate registrar after the Public Service Commission commenced the process of recruiting new officials on Monday. The exercise will also see 3 assistant registrars of political parties appointed to fill the positions.
Today, we shall interview 10 candidates who are shortlisted for the position of registrar of political parties. We have 5 male and 5 female candidates. Starting Tuesday, going to Wednesday and Thursday of this week, we shall interview a total of 37 candidates who are shortlisted for the 3 available positions of Assistant Registrar of Political Parties.
Among the shortlisted candidates for the position of Registrar of Political Parties include Kennedy Omoro, Moshid Abdallah, Nancy Oundo, Anne Nderitu, Mary Karen, Edwin Kipkoskei, Henry Mwenda, Edith Nyambura, Lucas Mwanza, and Sheila Atieno. According to the 6th schedule of the Political Parties Act, the PSC will, following the conclusion of the interviews for the position of registrar, nominate and forward to the president the names of 3 nominees for appointment and the names of 9 nominees for appointment to the office of assistant registrar.
The Public Service Commission shall forward to His Excellency the President names of 3 nominees for appointment to the office of registrar of political parties and the names of 9 nominees for appointment to the office of assistant registrar as provided in the law.
The office of the Registrar of Political Parties has been a beehive of activities in the recent weeks as warring factions in Jubilee and Ford Kenya tussle over leadership positions. Anne Nderitu has been the acting Registrar of Political Parties. Eli Lugova, TV47, Nairobi.
And now, moving on, schools reopening will fully depend on the COVID-19 status in the country. This as stated by Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, who met principals from various TVET institutions in the country. Magoha revealed that the 8.2 billion shillings donated by World Bank will be used to improve infrastructure in schools across the country. Andrin Kilemi now reports.
In a meeting with TVET principals from across the country, Education CS Professor George Magoha said the government's main focus was to ensure schools have enough water storage facilities, enough thermoguns for temperature checks, but most importantly, to ensure schools are able to adhere to the 1.5 meter rule on social distancing.
We shall not open until the disease has stopped increasing and stabilized for 14 days. When it does like that, the health experts, together with ourselves, will go back to the president and tell him, what risk are we able to take? What risk is he able to take? For now, I do not think the president will be happy to open schools when we are still spiking. I'm not speaking for him. but the way I know he loves our children, to him, even one child getting dead that is avoidable is something that we are not going to deal with.
Magoha revealed that the 8.2 billion shillings donated by World Bank will be used to improve the sorry state of infrastructure in schools by putting up latrines and additional classrooms.
The SECIP money, which is about 8.2 billion from the World Bank, I think they are opening tenders sometime this week, and we are going to accelerate. That is supposed to improve the infrastructure level in about 30 counties.
The education boss further confirmed that a number of technical vocational education training institutes have capacity to make face masks and sanitizers.
So the government is not sitting down and waiting. We are doing everything possible to ensure that should the situation arise, whether it is only the candidates opening or whether we are opening for everybody, we shall be ready in the best capacity that we can.
This even as 80 education officials drawn from different parts of the country remain in quarantine after 2 staffers from Kabarak grounds, where a seminar was set to kick off this week, were reported to be COVID-19 positive.
Now, even as the Ministry of Education prepares to reopen schools in the projected September date, one thing is clear, that schools will reopen if and when the COVID-19 curve flattens. Andrin Kilemi, TV47, Nairobi.
Why I didn't want us to weigh in on the discussion on, of course, the vetting of registrar of political parties is because it's an ongoing process, and we're looking forward to discuss that some more on a Friday after we get the final reports. But that aside, let's cross over to this one that we are touching on, and that story by Andrin, and also captured on page 4 of the People's Daily. Magoha dampens September school reopening hopes. And of course, Education Minister says the chances that classes will not resume until coronavirus situation improves. He said categorically that until we start experiencing a reduction of numbers, there is no way we are going to reopen schools. Philip.
Yes, I'm glad he shifted his hard stance from what he was initially saying, that the school calendar will not be changed and stuff like that. I'm glad he did that. Right now, I think the priority is keeping Kenyans safe and keeping our children safe. And I've said this before, that we should be concentrating on the psychosocial welfare of our children while they're at home, rather than focusing on when we should get them back to school, yet we have not managed the public health system as it is right now. So, the things that are being proposed, they are very lofty. I wish that we were at that level where, just a few months of work would take us to a level where we have adequate infrastructure, adequate personnel in our schools, but we are not there. Keeping, just the mere fact or the mere, issue of keeping social distance. In some schools, it is impossible to do that. It is totally impossible. The school itself is small, so you cannot even maintain the 1 meter social distance in that school, let alone a classroom. And there are schools that do not have adequate, sanitary facilities. It's just a nightmare in our education system.
Right.
So I think now that this pandemic has exposed those issues, we should work towards long-term fixes to those issues, rather than working towards fulfilling a certain requirement so that children get back to school. Yet those issues that are being sought to be fixed might not be fixed permanently. We need a permanent solution to the problems that coronavirus has exacerbated. Yes, Lynn.
All right, that's interesting. And of course, before we take a break, maybe just to go through the key stories on some of the. All right, maybe we should take a break and then fix this, some bit of technical hitch. And I'll be coming back to take a look at, of course, the current affairs and most importantly, also the front pages of these particular newspapers that we have. So we'll take a short breather. We'll be coming back with much more on the newspaper review as we cross over to the other segment where we'll be discussing matters, economy, and most importantly, the politics of the day. After this break, Morning Cafe. We'll be right back. We take a look at some bit of politics right here in the country on whether indeed we're going to proceed to a referendum, and so much so changes the realignment in matters politics, different people merging together to work together, and what this means for the common mwananchi, and what of course this will direct us in terms of matters talk 2022. But that aside, also it's important that we take a look at the economic aspect amid COVID-19. We know very well that so much has been distracted in the economic world, and CS for Matters Tourism, that is Najib Balala, says that we have been pushed to a point whereby there are no better options than to have the tourism sector reopening because of the kind of losses that we have registered, matching or citing about 80 billion loss that we have, of course, so far. In terms of profits, he says we've only received 30% of what we would receive normally in terms of profits. So it's pretty much unfortunate and damning to the economy, and that's exactly what we want to discuss this morning, as I want to, of course, once again, welcome the gentleman on set. Thank you so much for your time again, Philip Mwangali. And Cyrus Liswa joins me this morning, also political analyst, to expound more on such. And to reopen or not to? Every other sector is grappling with the same. Should we say that once and for all, let's reopen everything? Or slowly by slowly, as it is, different sectors in their own special way. Maybe you should come in first so we can hear your voice, right?
Thank you very much for having me on set. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I think matters to do with COVID.
I agree.
And other things. Now, concerning the situation in the country and looking at rising issues, as per the government directives,
yes,
I'll say let us open gradually. Looking at other governments, other countries, how they went with it. Like I was reading this morning.
Yeah.
Yesterday night or this morning. Israel opened. Now the schools, now they have gone back and closed the schools again. After 300 pupils contracting the disease. So you see, when you open without measures in place,
right,
then we are headed to a very risky place, because so many will contract the disease or the virus.
Right.
After contracting the virus, the country itself does not have mechanisms to handle the issue.
Yeah.
Look at right now, let us go back to the counties. We have like 12 or 15 counties that don't have adequate beds, ICU, that will manage each and everyone. And you see everything, it get taken back to the county. That for us to have successful opening, we need to have counties having developed their health system, having improved their health system. But now, when we go back to that, then we have a big problem. And right now, we see what counties have turned into. Counties are turning into impeachment.
Right.
War, it has turned into a war zone, whereby whatever they are thinking, they are not thinking of service delivery to the people, but they are thinking on how are we going to impeach so and so. How are we going to? They are not thinking of even legislation,
right,
or discussing a bill of health,
right,
to on how to improve the situations in the county. But they are thinking how are we going to impeach so and so.
The biggest
the governor is also thinking, how am I going to defend myself so that I remain in the position? It's a matter of supremacy.
But as one would argue, well, COVID-19 is here with us.
Yes.
But the argument on ground is that life has to continue.
Yes.
Like we cannot stall up every other activity in the country courtesy of COVID-19, as much as maybe it has rendered us to that particular point. The US, as you can see, is proceeding with campaigns, talks of how best they can hold an election. Such is also happening in Uganda. Interestingly, Museveni also reopened, and he just said students should go back to school.
Don't even go to US.
Not Museveni.
Go to Tanzania.
Yes, Tanzania.
They didn't even close down.
They didn't
even lock down.
But students are going back to school.
The country is going on very well.
Yes.
Okay. So in other words, we can say, okay, to me, this is my position.
Right.
In Africa, this disease this pandemic is not as wild as it is in Europe, in America, and other countries. Okay, the European or Western countries. So there is something fishy in Africa, because one, looking also at the numbers that they are given in daily from the Minister of Health, we question them.
Right.
Okay, Magoha questioned the number of pregnancies, teenage pregnancies.
So we have all rights
that were released. Now we also question the numbers of Ministry of Health giving out.
Right.
Okay, because why? At a certain time, the numbers just started increasing trajectory.
Right.
So these are some of the things that you need to look into.
Do you read mischief in this?
I read mischief. That's why I say from my own position.
All right.
I read mischief. Okay.
Yes.
And if we could have gone the Tanzanian way, then we could have been even safer.
Are things as good in Tanzania?
Yeah.
And would you read mischief also?
You know, I was not very quick in the beginning to castigate President Magufuli, because I found that was his understanding, that was the way his government understood Corona, and they decided to take action as they deemed fit, going by what the experts were advising. You know, we were busy castigating Magufuli, saying this man does not understand. A few weeks from now, Tanzanians will be dying on large scale. Well, we do not really know the extent of
but would it be so? If it is so bad, would we not have known by now?
We would have known, and it's good that Lisa's mentioned that we are not experiencing worse effects as we are seeing elsewhere. If that were the case, then we would be in a very bad place. But the fact that over 80% of people who are contracting this virus are recovering is very good, and we should thank God for that situation.
Right.
I think we should move beyond just copying what other countries are doing. Just because a country has opened up and then there was a spike in virus infections, we should not just follow their path. The fact is that this virus has spread so much in this country right now, and we actually do not know the numbers of people who have contracted this virus.
Right.
We are not doing enough testing. The fact that the ministry is telling us that they've tested 150,000 samples, and that does not relate to the number of people who have been tested. They're just samples, and those samples could involve people who have already tested positive. So we are not using this data properly. We might be interpreting it properly, but we are not applying it properly. So in my opinion, I think we should ease down. And this is the other bit that is interesting and laughable, that these lockdowns have actually not been working. It's been for some
of course, from what
individuals.
the specialists say, that if at all we did not go that direction, the numbers would have been worse.
I think
so. How can we confidently say that this has not worked?
The numbers are worse than what the ministry
they are worse than what
Yes.
was even before. But of course, they say it would have been even worse. I mean, and it's in a way I really would want to get what Cyrus Liswa would propose for this, because at one point he says that these numbers are mischievous, and the other point he says that probably we do not need to proceed and reopen, because if you look at what has happened in other countries, they reopened or they eased the lockdowns, and then boom, things got even worse. So where do you stand?
I'm not contradicting myself.
Okay.
I want to be very clear.
All right.
I've given two scenarios: my perspective, and the government perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
The government perspective is that we should just open gradually, slowly by slowly. Okay. My perspective, from the look of things, in relation to Tanzania. Okay. In relation to Tanzania, it is Africa. It is East Africa. Okay. We are no different from them. The only difference is maybe the one or two things, but we are the same African country, the same region. Now, my point is this in relation to Tanzania, because when we went to a lockdown, we were only like 30 people who were infected,
were positive,
who were positive with the disease. But right now, we went to a lockdown. We have like 6,000 people. Okay, then what is wrong? If we were going for a lockdown, we were going to make measures even to come even zero.
Right.
Because when you were 30, when we went for a lockdown and those curfew things, we were like, we want to curb this disease. We want to manage this disease. And managing the disease, it is not a matter of increasing the disease.
Right.
Okay, increasing the number of positive cases, but reducing the number of positive cases to zero. Okay. Now, what went wrong? What was the plan of the government? Okay.
So in this case, your proposal is that we should take chances and proceed in the lockdowns, and once and for all, not in bits.
What we should just do is let us agree. The pandemic's there to stay with us.
Okay.
If we die, we die. Something that we have to live with.
All right.
So if we die, we die.
Okay.
If we survive, we survive. Then what we should do is we continue the own business, because one, there are those people who have lost jobs.
Yeah.
They're at home.
Right.
Okay. They are suffering.
In fact, the numbers are high here, as projected again by, of course, the Ministry of Tourism.
Those people who are affected, they are here in the city.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of them come from maybe the Western region, come from Nyanza region and other regions, Rift Valley. So after now, this person has lost the job. The landlord does not want to know that. The landlord is on the door knocking. He wants the rent. Where will this person get the rent? Okay. Now, what does this tell us? We are going to have so much cases of robbery, so much cases of insecurity because of a high unemployment rate.
The cases are already being registered right now. I mean, you've seen what is going rounds and making rounds. Yes.
And the other bit that is also unfortunate is this, that the lockdown was supposed to be a quarantine of sorts, so that you're having 30 cases in Nairobi. Initially, it was just Nairobi. So you manage those 30 cases and you do contact. It's laughable that the government was talking about contact tracing.
Yes.
I don't think that they really meant it. And the government has not really had a plan. If you trace their steps right from before this virus came into the country, there was no concrete plan of managing the virus.
Right.
We were just playing PR, and that PR appeared.
But is it not the case globally? I mean, everyone is just trying to figure out what is to be done, how it should be done, and all that.
Yes, countries are trying to figure out, but we are not really doing that. We are not planning. Right. The fact that we are just stumbling in the dark as we go. There was a time before 6th of June when we expected that the president will now ease restrictions. People were excited because they thought now that we have a plan, the government will ease up and then make sure that health-wise our public health system can manage whatever will come. But that was not the case. We extended. And as the numbers are rising, it is likely that the government will also extend. If we continue with the way the government is treating this issue, and they are at the forefront in flouting this Ministry of Health guidelines. So if they continue in that manner, then we are likely to be on lockdown constantly. We are likely to have a curfew for the rest of the year. So we must come to terms with reality that this virus has spread. And yes, the lockdown might have helped, protect the elderly down at the counties. But now it is appearing that they're as vulnerable as we are here in Nairobi. So we should make sure that counties are now equipped. The other unfortunate bit is that counties have been rushing to beat a deadline.
The deadline,
that you have 300 bed capacity, not because you really care about the people in your county, but because you want to meet a certain quota that has been set by the president, and that is unfortunate. If what will happen if, for example, cases that need critical care surpass 300 in a certain county, yet you have just you are okay that you have 300 beds for isolation. So I think we need to put in place measures to accommodate this virus. So because it is here with us, we need to look at easing up the lockdowns, open up the counties, but make sure that the public health system can manage a spike in those who need critical care. That is one. Two, and this is specifically on the bit of education. I don't think that it is wise to let our children go back to school. We can open up other sectors of the economy, but we can delay the opening up of schools because children will be the most vulnerable.
But if us as parents are stepping out and coming back at home, I mean, how then does it create a difference if we say that let's lock them in, unless you're going to tell me that we'll come back home and not get close to them again, which is something that brings me to my next question. But just how much are we doing as a people to ensure that again we also abide by the restrictions, because clearly they are not being upheld as it stands right now.
A small point. when now parents are going out, they're going to work and coming and interacting with all people, I think the burden of responsibility will be heavier, knowing that you are not just protecting yourself, but you're also protecting your children at home. And if we open, the reason why I'm saying that if we open schools, then we'll be placing children at a big risk, is because schools are enclosures. So if you have the virus getting into schools, then you have children being exposed, children alone in the schools being exposed to the virus, and you have children who have respiratory conditions, children who have other underlying conditions. So that you cannot compare that risk with an individual parent perhaps contracting the virus and their child contracting the virus. So we have to balance. It's a balance that we have to do.
Right, and
on the same concern. As much as we talk about children going to school and being risk, and that's why I say on my position I have two angles. The government angle and my personal angle with relation to other things that happen in the society. When you leave this place and go to the village or go to the estate, the children are playing together. They are playing together.
Yes, they are.
Have you had any case of a child from your area who has contracted this virus?
Perhaps it's because they are not being tested anyway.
In my area, no. And I have not seen any child who is on the bed sleeping that he or she has failed to raise up in the morning just because he has he has been infected by the disease, the virus. So these are some of the things that we need to sit down and interrogate ourselves. Okay, as much as the government pushes this idea in one or the other, but we need to sit down as a people. Okay, and interrogate this thing in a broader way. The government should also be realistic to its people. Okay, let us not just push things when the funds, the EU funds, the World Organization funds that were channeled to the country to manage this disease, or this pandemic. These monies were meant to ensure we improve our health systems. Okay, the monies were enough to improve our health systems, but what happened? The monies themselves went for teas and mandazis in the Ministry of Health and ambulances for 14 million shillings. Okay, so these are some of the things that we read the mischief in it. Okay, because if these monies were channeled, I saw like when in Canada, in UK, in America, and other countries, when this thing was serious, the hospital and let me say health facilities were created, to ensure we manage this pandemic. But what are we doing in the country? We sit somewhere, take mandazi and tea.
Who's undoing is this? Who's undoing is this? Because then we agree that indeed we are handicapped when you look at the health sector. And even worse, right now that you're talking about the donor funds that are coming on board, we lack accountability out of it.
Very true.
Worst of all is that we are talking at a scenario where we've not even hit 200,000 of testing, process in the country, which is pretty much unfortunate in a country that holds about 50 million people. Yet we said very well that mass testing is key towards us being able to tame this. So where are we headed with this fight, honestly?
Now, also, when I battle with my mind on all these issues, the essence of curfew, let me say, if the Ministry of Health could have organized itself, and it carries out mass testing from door to door, then we could be somewhere. Right now we could know the
Cyrus, we are incapacitated. Why? This morning we were having this conversation with Mwangali. Allow me to tell you this. And the talk on board is that yes, there are recoveries, but we can as well not test the recoveries because again, we are grappling with the aspect of the test kits that we have in the country.
We are not incapacitated as a country. We were given donor funds as a country. Let us first of all agree to that and delete the word incapacitated. Because we were capacitated by the donor countries. We were given enough money that could make us manage this situation. Jack Ma donated safety kits
that are not there anymore.
That are not there. The safety kits disappeared. They did not disappear. The safety kits were sold by the people in the ministry.
But just how greedy are we
now,
as a nation?
The COVID fund itself, it has a lot, a lot of funds that has been contributed to it. internally from the same people in the country. Where are these monies gone for? Where are they gone? Okay, these are some of the questions that we need to question. These are some of the things that we need to interrogate in a deeper way. Okay, we should not just say we are incapacitated. We are not incapacitated. We were capacitated. Okay, by the donor funds and the funds even from the countries. Corporate institutions gave out monies. Okay, to a COVID fund. Now, where are all these monies? Because if we say we want to build something, we want to build a hospital, okay, that we even will cater for even people in East Africa, we could have managed, but the funds went for tea and mandazis.
Well, sadly enough, when we talk about the committees that are being set up in different sectors to, chart ways of reopening these particular sectors, I mean, is this the kind of conversation that we'll be having, that every sector with its own special way, as opposed to having a unison, conversation revolving around how best we can go back to normalcy? Because clearly we are headed at a scenario whereby we're going to lose more lives courtesy of poverty, more lives because people are grappling for survival, more lives because of the communicable diseases and also the diseases that we're witnessing in the country today.
That's true. And just to join issue with what Liz has said, our priorities are very wrong. We have directed our attention where we are not supposed to direct it. The fact that you can see government officials roam across the country, and that they're not roaming on bicycles, in choppers. You can imagine the cost of navigation, air navigation, the cost of fuel. It's just it's saddening. It's annoying that we have a government that is concentrating on issues that they should not be concentrating. And this is a government that is saying we should look at lives first, then livelihoods next. But you cannot separate these two. You cannot have an individual who is alive and they are dying of hunger. That means that you have neglected the life aspect. So it is a balancing, and again I must say it's a balancing act. The other bit is this, that in terms of our capacity to do things, I'll give an example of Senegal, and now Sierra Leone has borrowed that model. They came up with their own test kit. That is just about $1.
$1, yes.
And this is an African country. The economy of that country is way below our economy as a country. We are way advanced in terms of economy and in terms of development and technology. But we are not utilizing the resources that we have adequately. Contact tracing was supposed to have begun a long time ago. We have young people who have developed apps. These young people have been ignored by this government. Apps that would have cost very little. You just facilitate the young person who has come up with the app, and you roll out, a system that would help keep tabs on those who are infected, and keep us aware of
But these
this
applications highly depend on the numbers that are being projected again by the government.
No, they don't.
A majority of them will tell you you're getting into a hotspot. I mean, how do they know that this is a hotspot, COVID-19 hotspot? Were it not for the fact that the government has projected that this is Kibera and the numbers are higher in Kibera?
Well, it's not really about getting into a hotspot. That is one
application.
There are some applications that would make use of where you have been, your location. If there was somebody who was infected and they visited that same location, then it will inform you that you came into contact or you are in the vicinity of that kind of person. So it's a wide range of issues, but we have not utilized it. We saw a budgetary allocation and expenditure that was directed to the NSIS, and we're told that they used about hundreds of millions for contact tracing. That is outrageous. So this government is not keen on solving the issues at hand. They appear to be doing so, but what they are really after is something else. The amounts of money that have been looted in this season, it is outrageous. If we tallied what we have received from donors, we tallied what we have had as ourselves as a country, and as against what has been used rightly to fight this virus, then we will be staring at, we'll just need to cry ourselves out.
Please, as we wind up on this, then what after mass testing? Then what after contact tracing? Then what after getting these people?
Look, picking from where Mwangale has just raised some concerns. On contact tracing, also using those apps, the government is on record. The Ministry of Health is on record saying and stating that there are people they cannot even trace them. Why? They gave wrong contacts. And
yes.
I ask myself a question. When I go to the hospital, for even a mild just case, I will give my contact and any other contact that I may be reachable on. When this other when my contact is off, you don't give only one contact. So when we sit down and interrogate so many things from the government side, then there's a lot of malice in all this issue. And that's why I always say, and I've been on record saying, then we could have gone the Magufuli way. Magufuli stated clearly, we are embracing this issue as Africans so as we can receive funds. And remember, these funds, we are going to pay them. It's not a free thing. It's not a free gift. It's money that we are going to pay because they are being given to us in terms of loans. So we need to interrogate ourselves. Where are we? Where do we want to be? Why do we have to burden our own citizens to benefit a few individuals? For contact tracing. And that's why I've always said we should always embrace the ideas and technologies that we have in these countries. Kenyans, very young people, are not sleeping. Some are developing apps. Some were doing one or two things. Even M-Pesa is not something that was borrowed from outside. It is an idea that was borrowed from this country. And many other ideas that this country has generated. Why can't we embrace our own things so that we can use them in one or the other? Because if we do that, then we shall improve our own country. We shall improve even these youths who are outside here. We shall create employment for them.
As someone
but we
would
are
have
not
said,
doing that. Look at the issue of protective clothing. We used to think of buying this protective clothing. After the pandemic strike, we could not import because those countries that are supposed we are supposed to import from them, they are also using and utilizing their own facilities. Now, what do we need to do? We need to come up with our own. That's when we start thinking on how we can come up with our own. That's why that's the time we are thinking on how we're going to test these things if they are valid using KEBS. That's now when we realize KEBS is there to carry out their own mandate. And yet we are always there. Okay, that's when we realize Rivertex is there, EPZ is there, and other institutions are there. You see, we are people who don't have priorities for our own citizens. Look at when we say the disease is there. How many politicians have been in the villages and on the streets having rallies? Okay, this is some of the things that we need to question. And the rallies that I've had, even in Western region and other regions, we've not even received any cases of COVID-19.
Because they've not been tested.
Because they've not been tested. That's
Why
the point.
And have we had deaths from those areas? They have not been tested.
Well,
but have we had deaths from those areas?
Well, so to speak.
No, the statistics are always there from the Ministry of Health, day in, day out. Have we had deaths from those areas?
Well, no.
Yes. And of course then that's why we say there's a lot of missing. When we sit down and interrogate this thing in the best way possible, we read a lot of mischief from all this.
All right, then the burden has been left for the counties. And of course, as President Uhuru Kenyatta would say, the Ministry of Health, CS Mwangangi the other day saying that, it is squarely on the counties to determine whether we're going to ease the restrictions or not. The counties, the very same counties that we were talking about and how they're grappling with the aspect of finances. One, in terms of what they're going to be receiving, some of them are going to receive lesser amounts in comparison to others, which is something that doesn't augur well with the majority of the politicians down there. So when we're talking about the capability of the counties, the capability of devolution in transforming or towards transforming the country is something I think we need to have a discussion revolving around that. So when you look at this and the burden left for the counties, sincerely speaking, are we fighting a genuine battle? Are we headed anywhere? Are we likely to be successful in the fight against COVID-19 anytime soon?
Now the government has been shifting blame. First, it was blaming those who are moving around, spreading the virus. Then it shifted to blaming the rest of the country for, being wayward and not taking good care of ourselves and not minding our own health. Now that blame is slowly shifting to the county governments. And in as much as the county governments have, in a large way, failed to secure the public health care, I do not think that it is wise for the government to say now whether we open or not is dependent on the counties. If it was dependent on the counties, then we will not open in 2 years, because these counties do not have the capacity to handle a spike. I don't even think we should be calling it a spike, because I think we are already past that. To handle, critical, to handle us getting to a critical phase where you have hundreds of people needing critical care. We are talking about 300-bed capacity isolation facilities. We are not even touching on, ICU facilities. I don't know whether the 300-bed capacity, but I'm sure it's not. It does not include. It's got
nothing to do with ICU. Yes.
Yeah. So what if? Just what if? And I really thank God that we are not experiencing what other countries are experiencing. But what if we had that kind of situation, that you have 400 people in your county, just Nairobi, let alone Isiolo, Mandera, and all those counties, just Nairobi County, you have 500 people needing critical care, not just isolation. Needing critical care, and you do not have the capacity. What happens in that case? We already have a situation where these other ordinary ailments already have an issue. They have already expanded and stretched our healthcare systems and our healthcare facilities. What are we saying to the counties? That now we should concentrate on a 300-bed capacity for isolation of COVID-19 and forget these other issues. I think this was an opportunity for us to concentrate on systemic issues that have been affecting us, including our public healthcare system, because we have counties that do not have enough hospitals, counties that only have buildings which they call hospitals, buildings that do not have facilities, buildings that do not have personnel and equipment. So if we only used this opportunity to right the wrongs that we have created for ourselves over the years, then we'll be better placed. Because if Corona ends tomorrow, if, for example, something happens and Corona ends next week, and we are no longer seeing people getting infected, or we have a vaccine, will we stop equipping our healthcare facilities? Will we stop building more hospitals? Will we stop concentrating on ICU facilities? I was listening to, I think it's the Isiolo governor. He's the chair of the Devolution Health Committee, and he was saying he has 70 beds, and that is not enough, but he was proud of himself, and I felt like crying, because when you have thousands of people, towards their hundreds of thousands in a whole county, and then you say you have a 70-bed facility. It beats understanding that you can even be called a leader, because you are not planning, you do not have the interests of your people at heart, you do not have life itself in your heart.
It's been hard to plan at the level of the counties, and we ask today, I mean, where is devolution headed? Because in as much as maybe we might want to point a finger at these governors, yes, money is a challenge towards to the county. Every other time you hear them complaining of the fact that it takes long for the funds to be disbursed at the level of counties and all that. So would they even be able to successfully address the issues of the counties, even as they grapple to at least generate revenue? I mean, I doubt there's any country that is counties that is able to generate revenue today.
You see, as what my friend has just mentioned, the issue of COVID. If COVID today, we just the World Health Organization comes and says, there's no COVID. COVID is now well managed. COVID, the issues of COVID are over. Okay, where are we going to be as a country? Way behind.
They say that it will probably take us some years, 5 or so. Say 2024 is when we'd say that at least we'd get back to where we were in terms of matters economy.
Fine, in terms of matters of economy,
which is quite a damage.
It's a big damage.
Yeah.
But the question we're asking ourselves, where have we been all along? Okay? Why is it that we've never been managed our own things in the right way? Why is it that we cannot even manage a single cent? So that right now we are realizing we don't have a single bed
Yeah.
in hospitals. We lacked these things long time ago. We didn't have them. It's only that COVID has exposed us.
Yeah.
Okay? And the truth is, we lack priorities. That's why the people we've elected, okay, are not performing their duties as they are supposed to perform. Okay? If devolution was to enrich the common man, then we could have started by ensuring we have developed our own counties. I'm telling you that because one, each and every county has a location. And if this allocation is well managed, then we'll be way further. And then after 5 years of devolution, let me say from because we started practicing devolution 2013. Come 2017, we could have been very far. Because look at the money that are channeled to the counties. Okay? And we have health, agriculture, education, and other sectors.
Yeah.
Even Ministry of Trades and Industrialization are in the counties.
Yeah.
So if we could have put our energies in improving our counties using the little we have, so that from the little we have, we can get something bigger. Remember, the counties are also taxed with revenue collection.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, if in Nairobi, we have people who are unemployed because businesses have closed, okay, because of the pandemic. What about a remote county in this country? Okay? How many lives are affected? Now, for example, we can say 100 people in a county have lost job.
Yeah.
Okay? Now there's no revenue collection in that county. What does this mean? Then we've already gone back 100 steps.
Behind.
When will we ever grow? Because after this pandemic, another issue will rise.
Indeed.
How are we going to
deal with this?
to deal with such an issue when it rises? Leave alone the health issue. Other issues are there also.
Yeah. And indeed,
food security,
yes.
we have food security. Look at the issue of floods.
Yeah.
I was here on time with Matukio Nyanjani.
Right.
We talked about something to do with agriculture. And I remember I said, the same mechanism the government has used in the past years to dealing with floods is the same mechanism it will use this year. And believe me or not, that's the same mechanism that it used.
A mechanism that does not work.
It never
works. Yes, as we wind up on this, yes.
They just go on their laptops or desktops. They look at what did we tell these people last year?
Let's just
concerning the floods.
Rephrase
so the same things we are going to tell them this year.
All right, and looking at this, there's a cartoon edition that I'm looking at on the People Daily, and there's a huge jar. I don't know whether we're able to have that projected on screen, but all the same, I'll just explain. A huge jar, as you can see, that sort of at the top, tells us of what target we have for the 2019-2020 budget, and even crossing on a fathom. And right at the bottom, we can see holes of the very same jar. So much as the Treasury is trying to put in some water or put in whatever it is that they're putting in, this is coming out from all these holes that we have. And then, of course, Wanjiku is standing somewhere there and asking, so you are the very same person who's going out to go out there, and get more debts, borrow more for me to pay. As you can see it projected, like, sincerely speaking, this is what it speaks about, of course, devolution at the level of the county, and speaks about what is going to happen at the national government, and then leaves us wondering what next as we wind up on this.
That is our unfortunate reality, and we just don't need to embrace it, but we need to do something about it.
Yeah.
I will mention this before I touch on that on the counties. We have something called the County Integrated Development Plans that are passed before a budget is approved. Yeah. But it is unfortunate that most counties only have these CIDPs for academic exercise, just for approval of budget. If you look at many counties, and I've looked at very many county plans, they are very flowery, they are very promising. There are things that if those things were accomplished, we will not be staring at this nightmare that we are staring at. But we have county assemblies that are important. We have county executives that are diverting resources for their own benefit. We have governors that are corrupt, looting counties dry, and that is the reason we are not seeing development. Health. Just touching on health, you'd find almost all these plans, and it's like they just sit down and say we will take this CIDP KIDP from a certain county, just change the name, change a few things here and there, and then present it for approval. Those plans appear not to be customized to the issues surrounding the counties.
Of the counties.
Yes, back to the cartoon. That is our unfortunate reality. We have an economy that is handled like the matatu business. When it rains, fare goes up. When when there are things, the way the economy is handled in this country is so flimsy. It is myopic, and it is unfortunate that for a country as with an economy as large as ours, we are handling things that way. While some might say that handling has grown the economy to the level that we are, but we can be at a better place. I believe in the capacity of this country. I believe in the potential of this country. I believe in the potential of the resources that we have, and in the potential of the people of this country. But it is unfortunate that the people we have tasked with leading us forward, the people we have tasked with carrying our vision, are not doing that. They are concentrating on self-aggrandizement. And that is why we find ourselves in a position where we are saying we can recover by 2024, but that is when the whole world, the globe, will be recovering. Our recovery will take us a longer time, because we have gone back to 10 years before now. While this might sound cynical, but this is the unfortunate truth. At Independence we were fighting poverty, disease, and ignorance. Almost 60 years down the line, we are still fighting the same thing. Why are we perpetually in this position? Yet we have the resources, we have the capacity, and we have the vision to take us forward. We need to address the root problem, and that is a breakdown in leadership.
And in this time around, every undoing is being blamed on COVID-19, which is unfortunate. Just looking at some of the stories that we've probably would have touched on, now that we're talking matters economy, and retail giants like ShopRite and Choppies are set to exit Kenya. It is unfortunate to see such reports coming on board. While you thought that this would be entities that would flourish and create employment for our very own people. But anyway, that aside, let's talk some bit of politics, which equally informs how best we're going to proceed as a country or as a nation. The BBI report set to be presented to President Uhuru Kenyatta and then eventually to the people. What are your expectations, Cyrus?
My expectations are that the BBI is going to pass. One, the stumbling block has already been cleared.
Okay.
The way is very clear. The road is very clean. There's no stumbling block.
Is it so?
Yes.
What was the stumbling block? What was the stumbling block? I think we need to get there.
Yes, I want to clarify it.
Okay.
I want to clarify it. From the political angle, okay, the stumbling block were the House, the leader of majority, let me say the House the way it was before and how it is today. Look at the Senate, how it was and now how it is today. So the changes in these houses will make the BBI sail through without any hitch. Okay, and that's a fact, because the pushers of the document believed that so and so being in this position will hinder the passage of the bill, one or the other. So for me to have it go through, let me have so and so in this capacity, and that's why there have been changes in these houses. So for me, the BBI is going to pass. So whether we like it or we don't like it, and I still go back to Orengo's statement some years, was it early this year or it was some last year, where he said we gave out a timeline, and this we shall have the referendum. Okay, and that is coming to pass.
All right.
If it were not for COVID, a referendum could come in July. But still, we are still within the timeline. We can still beat that deadline of July for having that referendum. Okay, so if it passes the parliament without those hitches, because now the way it has been structured, there's no going back to the people. Okay, it's just a matter of House discuss. After it has discussed, it passes. Okay, because it's going to be a bill. Already it is a bill. There's already there was a formulation of it earlier on, so it's already a bill that need to be tabled in the parliament. Then after it has been discussed, it goes through because it only needs voting after that.
All right.
Then the House will vote, passes, then that's how it is.
As they would put it, it has escaped the torturous route of lobbying at the level of the county assembly for endorsements. And would you suppose then that having gotten these people on the table was strategic? And when I say these people, I mean the likes of CCM, the Wiper Party, ODM, to work together with President Uhuru Kenyatta was strategic towards seeing to it that it's going to be a sail through and a smooth sail for that matter for BBI.
That is true. You know, I keep hearing the Jubilee wing saying, you know, they're bringing these parties together because they want to unite the country. It is just
it's got nothing to do with that.
Nothing to do with uniting the country. It has everything to do with you know, their political machinations and BBI to a large extent. But I think I'm finding it important to repeat this all the time, that I do not think BBI is a solution to any of our problems. BBI is a solution to political you know, equations that people want, you know, this and this for themselves. And that has been dressed as, you know, uniting the country, which is unfortunate. The other bit that is also interesting, and I look forward to seeing how that will pan out when it comes to the assemblies and later to the people. Liz was mentioned that there has been a push, and rightly he has rightly mentioned that there's been a push by the political elite to make sure that, you know, these changes that they are proposing pass through without a hitch. But I really believe in the people of Kenya because I know the people of Kenya know where they want to go. In as much as we most of the time might be misled by politicians once in a while, you know, through their handouts and stuff they will say, I really believe that we know where we need to go as a country. And this is the other thing that I must insist on. Constitutional making is not a political enterprise. It is a social enterprise that has political ramifications. But if you turn it the other way around, where now you are beginning with the political aspect, you will get the political gains, but then socially, the social contract will have been misplaced. That is where we will find ourselves in a few years' time if we endorse this whole process. You know, we rubbished Ekuru Aukot's bill, you know, saying this man does not know what he's doing. But if we support BBI, then we are in effect, you know, supporting a little of what Ekuru Aukot was about. He was thrown off just because, you know, he could not.
He was not in the right place.
Yes, he was not politically correct. That was unfortunate, and he was fought at the county assembly members. Some did not even read the bill. People were given as little as 10,000 shillings just to, you know, to kick the bill out of the assembly, which is unfortunate. Yet, if you compare Ekuru Aukot's bill with whatever is being proposed in the BBI, Aukot's bill is it's more reasonable because it goes to the root of what this constitution is facing at this point. What the BBI is proposing is a cosmetic fix on our problems.
Would we confidently say that you know, more or less the issues that were being raised are the very same ones that are going to appear on the final report, or we expect some changes?
I think those are the issues that will be there. With a few adjustments to fit certain political inclinations that we are likely to see, and especially because I think those that are pushing the BBI are very confident that it will pass in the assemblies, it will pass in parliament, and then it will be automatic that it will pass with the people. But again, I say I have a lot of faith in the Kenyan people. If Kenyans decide that this thing will fall, it will fall flat on its stomach. So I think we need to look at the future. We gave this constitution and this is the other thing that we really need to be serious about. In the preamble of our constitution, we say we are giving this constitution to ourselves and to future generations. So if we concentrate on what is just you know, pinching us for a while, we are forgetting that we have a future generation that will be relying on these changes that we are proposing right now. Then we are doing ourselves and our children a disservice.
Well, would you say then that the Kenyans have the capability, or we have the place? I mean, should we call it, what do we call this? I mean, do we have the capability to proceed and say that indeed we are supposed to say something about the BBI, we're supposed to endorse it or fail to endorse it? And I mean, the electorates, the leadership, will it allow us to proceed and, you know, have our say at the end of the day?
You see, one thing I've always said, Kenyans have that power. Because at the end of the day, why do I have said Kenyans have power? you are the one who goes to that ballot and elect your leader.
Okay.
So you have that power. So it is us. We need to come out with that conscious mind within ourselves and say, enough is enough. We are not going to be tossed around by those we elect.
So the elections, the process, a referendum, if at all we're going to go for that process, is not going to be predetermined. It's not going to be, you know, compromised in any way. It is exactly what the situation will be.
That is where we should be.
Yeah.
But at the moment where we stand, things are, as long as we have our own people whom we trust, whom we follow, whom we are sycophants for, they have told us this is how we go, and that's the direction we go.
Sadly.
But when we get out of that cocoon, okay, then it is us to decide for our future. And as Philip has just mentioned, whatever decision we make today should be for prosperity, not just for a short time to suit us. Remember, the 2010 Constitution was to benefit some individuals, okay? But later they realized they have not benefited anything from it, okay? And that's why now we are now pushing for another amendment of the Constitution. Because if you ask me anything concerning this Constitution, I will tell you we've not fully implemented this Constitution. Remember, we had a CIC, Constitutional Implementation Committee, headed by Nyachai. It exited the office when their term came to an end, without even completing half of the document. I'm telling the truth. Now it was left to the parliament. Okay? Now we have a committee in the parliament that needs to look into the constitution.
If the issues projected, if the issues we're bringing on board are worth indeed that transformation, that change, would we again sit and say that maybe we should just try as much as we can to implement the current constitution?
We don't need to cry as much as we can to implement the constitution. We only need to interrogate into ourselves, interrogate within ourselves. Okay? Let us be sober. Let us think about the future of this country. Okay? Remember, the draft that is being rejected right now, it has been rejected twice. One by the Kuro court. Two, remember the draft, the Bomas draft. It has the same structure. Okay, where opposition has to form their own cabinet, where all these things are in the Bomas. If you go and look at the Bomas draft, all these things are there. Remember how many committees have been formed? The Kriegler committee, the Waki committee, those committees, okay? The Ndungu report, addressing the issues of land. If we sit down and now implement all these committees report, which are shelved somewhere, and there's a lot of dust on those reports, okay? Now, if we sit down and implement those reports, this country will be very far. We use a lot of money forming committees, okay? And nothing is implemented from the committees. The TJRC report, it is just there, lying there. No one is even talking about it. It is still lying somewhere. If we implement all these reports from the committees, then this country will be very far. And this one, it beats my logic. When I look at the argument in the Senate, now I want to relate it to this. When I look at the argument in the Senate concerning the impeachment, whether panel or the committee way, okay? The Senate trusts the committee way, okay? It yields more fruits than even the panel way. That's what they suggest. That's what they argued about. Now, when we come to the committee that are set nationally to look into issues that are affecting the common man, why is it that those reports are never implemented? Why is it that those reports are never praised? No, these are some of the things that you need to sit down and interrogate. When you look at something, when something is being done, try to relate it to something else. Then we shall know where we are as a country. Because we are where we are because of our own ignorance, we as voters. But we need to come to a reality.
If we are to go the direction, yes, as you also top up on that, if we are to go the referendum way today, I mean, we look at the capability that we have as a nation in terms of, you know, finances, budget and all that. We also look at the aspect of the timelines that Cyrus brought on board. You know, are we looking at a situation where we're going to have to go for it, you know, in July? Of course, that is almost impossible courtesy of COVID-19. But also this referendum bill, a proposal by Jeremiah Kioni, that is a member of parliament. I mean, does it augur well with you that we can proceed for an election and equally at that very time of an election proceed to vote yes or no for a referendum that will have been proposed then?
I've looked at the referendum bill that was tabled. And one of the things that stands out for me, apart from putting in place, procedural issues, one of the things that stands out for me is it looks like there is a need to fit the constitutional amendments within a certain period. And the reason for this is that there are those who the ones who are pushing for this want to make sure that as we get to 2022, those gains that they think they should gain at the general election should already have been, structured up in the constitution. So that is the unfortunate thing about the bill. I have sent my memoranda to Parliament. And I look forward to them considering those issues. But then we wait to see the report. Some people confuse the referendum bill for the BBI, bill, the question that will be put forward to Kenyans. When we are dealing with such an omnibus amendment to the constitution, we should really be very careful, because there is a risk of being euphoric about it, as we are always in our general elections, and politicizing the whole process, so that Mwananchi will just be told, the politicians will just be picking one thing, then running with it and sensationalizing that thing. Yet there are salient issues that Kenyans need to pay attention to. So it will have been important for us, if really we feel that this constitution is not working completely, then let us amend it in bits. Let us pick one thing that is not working, fix it. And see how that gels together with the other parts of the constitution, and see how we can move forward.
The key thing that would take us for a referendum is change of the system of governance. I mean, as it stands right now, the presidential system. Do you suppose, in your own capacity, that probably it's not in the best of shape and probably would need for us to proceed and make changes? Like they said, the winner only takes it all, and everything is something that is an undoing. And we know very well that sometimes most of the animosity that comes after elections, culminates from that. So do you suppose in the system of governance maybe there's need for change? No, I do not think so, because what has been plaguing this country is not really sharing of power. It is resource allocation and development. If, for example, you had, this peradventure, you had, people from one community occupying the executive and occupying parliament, and people are developing, people are feeling, that their vote is having a say in terms of development, people will not be crying out. But the issue is we are not seeing development getting down to Mwananchi. That is our problem. But we have managed to twist it around, because, every general election we have politicians who sensationalize issues, and they manage to whip emotions in their background tribally, and then they make that a national agenda. That is the unfortunate bit. The current system of government we have can work. This is the point. It can work if we want to make it work. But it can also fail us if we have people who are occupying these positions intent on making sure that it fails, because we have a system, and this constitution is touted as a very progressive constitution across the country, not just across the continent. And one of those things is the way our governance system is structured. We have an executive that can be oversighted by parliament, but now unfortunately we have a parliament that plays the tune of the executive. We have an executive that wants to emasculate the judiciary. So the problem is not the officers. The problem is the people who are occupying these offices. That is our problem, and that is what we need to change. We need to have leaders that pay homage to the constitution. Leaders who respect the rule of law. That is our undoing. If we change that, if we change our value system, if we change our moral foundation, then this constitution doesn't need to be changed at all. We only need to make a few minor changes just to make sure that we are fueling the constitution towards implementation. Yes. All right, Cyrus, he brings a lot aboard, pertinent points on the aspect of the leadership also that we have, and one would want to ask this. I mean, numerous times we've heard, when you see these people of from opposing sides coming together in matters politics, you need to get worried. Time of the handshake, we all celebrated the handshake up until today, but we still are curious of what the handshake is yet to yield for us, is yet to bring for us, and one would argue this realignments that we're witnessing today in politics, and very many people coming together, people who've been on the opposing sides. I mean, should we be worried, or who is fooling who in this scenario?
I've said this, and I'll continue saying it. Whenever we're nearing a general election that is always pegged on change of regime,
right?
All manner of politicians come together. They are coming together eyeing for them to get a leadership or for them to be somewhere come the next government that will be formed, that will run the country 10 years. Remember in 2002, okay? Political parties merged. The bigger one being, the bigger merging being NDP and KANU. Why? There was a change, there was coming to be a change of regime.
Yeah.
And many thought they'll get favors from the outgoing president. But things went haywire.
Yeah.
Okay? Come 2012, we had the G7 things. Okay?
Yeah.
Whereby people were coming together just to be in government. Then there was a short change. Then other people started running through and crying. Okay? Then the same is repeating itself this 2000s, head of 2022. So these are always things that have been there.
Yeah.
Come here, whenever we are nearing a change of regime, we will always see this.
Yeah.
And this can only be changed because I believe the system that we have, the system of governance that we have today is the best system of governance. It's not all about winner take it all.